Yeah. And now do the pause. Hit the.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our March 20th workshop. Tonight is a budget workshop, and we are entering executive session. I would like to make a motion to enter executive session for collective bargaining negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law and to discuss employment history of individuals. Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so we will come back. We will turn Zoom back on and resume recording after we're through with the executive session around 7:30.
Oh, hit the pause button.
Someone's got an excellent tin feeling. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being patient as we had an executive session related to budget and personnel. I would like to make a motion to exit executive session. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And just to confirm, no votes or decisions were made in that executive session. I have a couple of quick announcements that are going to make people really happy. The lights are all in. They're all turned on tonight on the dock.
Wow. Boom, boom, boom.
Well
Yeah,
done.
but I'm done in 2 days.
How many years is that?
A lot.
Well done.
And we were able to do it in-house because of Mo's expertise.
Excellent. Great.
The temporary fence for Fair Street, the heavier duty construction fence, has been ordered and is on the way, so that should be in place, we hope, next week. And there was a dockside cleanup today, about halfway, got through about half of the items. It was a combined team from Parks, our roadways and facilities crew, and the community service program of the sheriff's department in the jail. So it looks much better down there.
Can we knock one thing out of the board business before we go into budget, the Cold Spring Bloom, because I think the chamber's on the call.
Oh,
I think
sure.
it's like literally 5 minutes.
Sure. So, yep, so
If you don't
we'll
mind.
modify, Eliza hasn't made a motion to modify the agenda to discuss Cold Spring and Bloom.
It's not it is first.
Oh, it is currently first. Yes, we were making a decision earlier to do budget so that Michelle could go home. So we're good. Let's go on. So we've been here a long time already. Who is here for the chamber? Fran, hi Fran.
Fran Fornerado. I'm here for the chamber tonight. Just wanted to reiterate what we're doing for Cold Spring of Bloom. We have the dates set for this year of Sunday, July 21st, with the 28th as a rain date, and pretty much following last year's format. Not very much has changed.
Fran, you mean April?
Yes, April, sorry.
Okay. There's not gonna be much in Bloom that isn't all. Okay. Okay, we got it. Awesome.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Karina.
so we're just going to follow last year's format. The History Museum, again, will be doing the history tour and the trivia. So that'll go into place. And we're working on Shop Locals, Shop Green initiative to kind of roll into Earth Day.
Great. And do you know if the History Museum wants a table in front of Village Hall again? Last year we moved the benches back and set a table for them there.
I believe they do.
Great. Any questions from board members? It's like one of the best events of the year.
Yeah, so happy you guys are keeping it going. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Laura.
And just say so it's the Cold Spring Climate Smart Task Force is partnering on the Shop Local, Shop Green. I'm super excited about it. So
Yes.
and we think of this as like the launch of it, and then we'll keep doing more publicizing of that concept, especially for our residents to come to Main Street.
Love it. Yeah,
Excellent.
great. Someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Cold Spring of Bloom's proposal for Sunday, April 21st.
And rain date.
The
The rain date
The
was
28th.
with a rain date of April 28th.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Ruth. I'm sorry. Thank you, Fran, and thank you for hanging out while we finish the first part of the session. Sorry to keep you waiting.
No problem. Thank you. I'm gonna actually exit off.
Okay, have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, so now I'd like to make a motion to modify the agenda and shift the rest of our board business to after our budget discussion so that the staff, the Michelle can head out after we finish budget.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we are in the midst of our budget process. We have to date met once to sort of review broad goals for the budget. We met last week to review the general fund and made requests and recommendations of Michelle Escalillo, the accountant, to modify some things and bring us into balance. She has done that and we'll report on that. And once we get through that conversation about general fund, we'll move to water and wastewater. So talk us through, Michelle, what's different this week?
So in the general fund, this is the tentative budget that is due today, March 20th. It is a balanced budget. I'm gonna run through quickly the revenue changes and then we'll move to expenses. And if we have questions, stop along the way, but most of the things are already items that we discussed last week. It's just carrying it over to making those changes. The first item on revenue added 6,000 for occupancy tax, assuming that there's one night a week, in the winter, December through March. We took out 30,000 for parking space count from 90 to 80. Left the occupancy rate at 70% for 8 months, 35% for the other 4 months. So this decrease is strictly from those 10 spaces. Added a net change of 2,900 for C Street. So that was adding 10,000 for 7 more undocked visits for September. And then taking away 7,200 from switching 11 docked visits to 11 undocked. So right now, the C Street budgeted numbers are all undocked. So that's why it only added 2,900, even though we added 7 potential more trips. Depending on where the C Street contract ends up, if they do dock, that's $660 extra per day that they dock instead of undock. And so if that happens, that could be a spot if we need to find room for expenses
I think it's highly likely that they'll need to dock, so
some days.
we could feel confident in adding at least like 6 to 8.
But I think because the budget's balanced
We don't have to worry.
now, that's a good starting point,
Yeah.
right?
Somewhere we can find when you ever need it.
Yes.
I do have revised C Street proposals later on that we could talk about if we need to make changes.
Okay, great.
Added 13,400 for parking fines. We talked with Larry and the cost of parking tickets and the amount. I think we talked about maybe 10 or 11,000. I worked out the math a little better and it's 13,400.
And a bit of encouragement there. We do have, Larry and I are interviewing 2 people on Thursday afternoon for a second parking officer.
Great.
I also added 32,000 in fund balance contribution. So this isn't adding new expenses, it's just moving expenses away from paying from, like, I call it operating, which is the tax revenue, the department revenue and all that stuff, to be paying one shot from fund balance,
Good.
which is 8,000 in storm drains, 15 in sidewalks, and then 12,000 estimated for E-code and a lump sum payment.
I think we're gonna need to add 2 other things potentially. FEMA has declined the replacement of the generator at the tunnel that runs the sump pump. We're going to appeal that denial, but that's $8,500 or so. And then the other, while we're working on engineering resolutions at Cedar Street, we need to have a pump. We've had them on loan from Dishes for some time. Dishes wants them back. I have contacted our assembly member and senator to try to request funds for that. The revised number, the state bid number, something like 47 with the different parts, right? 1,000.
Wow.
30. So off just straight off the market, the pump was 55,000. On state bid, it takes it down 20,000. then there are the accessories, the hose, the
Yeah.
basket, the
Yeah.
things, and it ends up being, I think the number was 47 all in. We can check the email, but though it's a one-time. The other thing that in speaking with general services, I asked them to also price out leasing it. Because it's a short-term thing. We're not gonna need that pump forever. And it doesn't have a lot of application. I mean, other than periodically pumping out the tunnel, it doesn't have a lot of application across the village. So it may be that leasing it for a period of time makes more sense.
Is there a market for used pumps? So if we want to sell this?
I would imagine, but
Yeah.
it'd be a, go ahead.
There is an auction house, out of Pleasant Valley on street contact that those things are called, and they're all, websites like Muni Bid and Municipal Bid that resell used municipal equipment to pumps specifically, I don't know, but there's a market for used municipal equipment.
Right, good. And I would expect we wouldn't resell it this fiscal year, right, if we were to do that.
That's, the engineering's not gonna be done that,
Yeah.
the work's not gonna be done
Yeah,
that
so in a
fast.
future year, but just to kind of. That might be interesting. Does that have a limitation on what we use for fund balance if we?
It's a one-time purchase. I think.
Yeah.
It's a big piece of equipment.
Okay. Seems like a money-making opportunity.
Is there a possibility of, like, does the town need a pump as well? Like, would there be a possibility of, like, going halvesies or something and sharing?
I mean,
I-
I don't, they don't have their own pump. They haven't bought their own pump because they don't need it.
Mhm.
And the property that's pumping is, I mean, they helped us secure it from Homeland Security,
Right.
but we're the
But
ones
they didn't need it.
pumping.
I also feel like we need it at the same time, right?
That could
Oh,
be
that's true.
Very true.
But I mean, I like your thinking.
It's always so practical.
But if it comes out of fund balance, this doesn't come out of like tax revenue.
Right.
So it's not that bad, and if we do not need it unexpectedly, we can intermunicipal agreement it to somebody else or auction it.
Charge them a lot
But
of.
I like the lease, I mean,
Let's see, I don't have those numbers yet, but I've asked for them.
Can I ask, I don't know anything about pumps.
Uh-huh.
Matt uses pumps in the pump stations.
Uh-huh.
If we were to buy this kind of pump, is it something that could translate when it's done being, it's on the street? Is it a similar type of pump that Matt might need to be replaced somewhere else?
So potentially, but these are called trash pumps for a reason, because they're built to take, like, we're pumping crap out of the woods, so it's full of debris, and I don't know. If it's a question for him, is this pump something that you can reuse later?
Like repurpose it?
Yeah,
Okay, we can
repurpose
ask
it.
him.
does the other pump come out of this fund balance or the water
So
or wastewater?
which other one?
The first one that you said.
So I've only put in, because they're so expensive, and we've got a better system worked out now, several storms in, I've only got one, I'm only asking for one
I thought you
pump,
talked about two
For the-
items.
a generator.
Oh.
The generator at the
Oh.
tunnel that operates the sump pump, we claimed it under FEMA, FEMA rejected it, we're appealing the rejection,
Okay, and it's stormwater, so it's general fund.
right?
Gonna make a joke about Miss Mayor buying a pair of pumps.
I'm glad you didn't.
But I'm not gonna go there.
And next.
Yeah,
So
moving
those
on.
are fund balance items, so if the board's okay adding them, it's net zero to the budget, it just comes out of the fund balance.
And that's
And then
the E code is a new estimate from them?
It's working off of an old estimate. I upped it, the old estimate was, I think, 10 and change. It was 11, so I added 12. By the time we get to public hearing, if we have a better number,
Okay.
we can adjust that. And I will check the numbers from that state bid email for the pump and put in close estimate to those
Okay.
numbers.
Thank you.
For the pump, is there any outside labor or engineering that's also needed? It's just purchasing the pump to replace.
So our team operates it, and no engineering for it.
So no additional cost. Any revenue questions in the general fund?
No, sounds great.
expense changes. Took out the $800 for website upgrades, took out the 3,300 for e-code from the operating, switched it to the website.
Capitalizing it.
Mhm. Took out 1,400 for MTA tunnel camera, plan. The contingent account is, just a few $1,000s for emergencies, but I also use that as a rounding, catch-all, so that number will never be a flat 5,000, and it'll be, 4,622. So I took 481 out of that for rounding. Took 1,100 out of police salaries to reduce the tours by 4 walking tours. It still has enough to cover all of C Street. Took out 24,600 for 50% of the highway laborer, to assume that they start December 1st, which is perfect half of the year. Dropped the highway diesel, down from $5 to $4, so that was $7.50. Added, 550 for benefits. I had included health insurance, but I didn't include the eye, dental, and vision for the new employees, so I added those adjustments in. Because parking revenue came down, the parking meter expense, which is credit card fees tied to the revenue, comes down 134. Added 2,500 across the 3 standing boards for additional training. Took out 8,000, I recalculated the pension expenses. Instead of using their estimates, I did it by actual salaries in the village. Took out 2,000 for FICA adjustment.
Chunk, that's great. Sorry to interrupt you. Go.
The pension system does a projected invoice, based on trends, an increase in salary, and then take last year and up it. Within the village, we have more turnover and more change. That's not just a 5% increase in salaries. So I did it 5%. There was also a change on the police side. There was a overpayment that we were gonna have to pay back, and we don't have to pay a charge back, and then we don't have to pay it, so that helped on the police side. 16,700 decrease for the health insurance due to the highway labor for 50% of the year. Added the dental for the employees and the eye benefit. So the biggest changes were the highway. So the budget is balanced. The things to keep in mind, which I think we talked about last week, but to reiterate, if the village hires a new highway person, we just have to make sure that the revenue isn't just skating us by, that it's enough to sustain it for the full year, not just half the year next year.
Oh, great point, yeah.
Any other expense questions?
What is, NYSERDA amount is, I'm so accustomed to thinking about NYSERDA related to code. This is your NYSERDA stuff. Our NYSERDA is led by you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Jumping down, okay. So right, for grants, Laura, I don't have to answer now, we can work on it. The NYSERDA amount of funding that the village will receive that needs to be applied in next year's budget. The expense and the revenue will match. But say we get a $5,000 grant on May 30th, we're definitely not using it. So that would really be in next year's budget. We use accrual accounting, so it's okay to defer revenue. So I would just need an amount for the revenue and the expense side of that $100,000 grant of what's going to be spent potentially now before May 31st next year, or if it's 2 years out like that.
My guess, so we're planning for the truck chargers at the water plant. And then something else, TBD for the remainder, maybe solar, maybe electric landscaping, maybe heat pumps. It depends on how much we have to work with. I think we'll spend all of that next year. We should also get $175,000 next year, but I don't know if we'll.
In addition to this.
Yeah. Which I would assume is it's likely to be for upgrades here, and I don't know what the timeline is for that, of whether we would spend it next year or the following year.
I think that's 2 up in the air. And at that point, by the time upgrades happen here and that grant could potentially be awarded, it would already be within 3 months to the end of the fiscal year, if not past it.
Yeah.
So I think it's safe to not count that.
There's also a $7,500 one that's coming soon. Probably in this fiscal year and then spend it. next.
Would that be water and sewer?
It'll probably be LED lighting at the sewer plant. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess likely all of these are going to water and sewer
Because
accounts,
of the truck
but the truck is.
and the solar, everything would be.
Yeah,
Okay.
the solar on the sewer plant, but I mean, I'll show you, when we have time, we'll walk everybody through it. The numbers aren't, like, the benefit of it, the financial benefit is like not great, so it's a few $1,000s a year compared to like a really big electricity bill, so.
Would
I've
you
been
want
looking at other things too.
Some in the general fund or just put it all in sewer, do you think? The full hundred.
Landscaping things would be,
If we do that, then that would be,
well, it's not a huge
It
amount.
doesn't
it's
have to
like-
be a perfect amount,
You
but
could
just
put,
the
like,
best guess that we know.
and I guess you. I don't know how it's gonna land. I mean, you could put 20,000 if you want. Or put it all in the water. I mean, I think. I would say just put it all in the water and sewer. I think
Okay.
it's likely gonna land that way.
And then if we,
And then if we do, then, you know, you
Right.
can move it.
You can
And
amend
so
it.
zero, it kind of
Mhm.
zeros that anyway.
Good. And the same thing would go for the tree plant amount, speaking of, tree board.
Mhm.
So these, again, they're net zero changes that have to be made, but they won't change, revenue adjustments that were to It'd be on both sides. Same thing for chips, I know we talked a little bit about it, I guess. You know, do it,
Like, if you put it in, then it's there.
it's there.
If we
you
don't
might
do
as well.
it, then it's fine.
We could put all the chips in.
that was a discussion I started to have with Doug, and I don't remember talking about capacity, and I don't remember how that conversation ended. We were talking about a couple of different projects. I need to follow up with that.
Probably. For the H&H study. I don't, and maybe we included, I can't remember how much we included for planning. And for engineering.
25, I think.
You have in mind that if we don't get a grant. Do we wanna put it, do we want something to be? A placeholder? In
I mean,
fund balance?
we have, yeah, we have to move on it.
This I think would be a good topic to decide about fund balance in general.
Yes.
So right now, there's 91,000 allocated from fund balance that has particular projects in mind. We need to add the 8,500 for the generator and the pump. Rough 60,000. So 91 and 60. That's 150. So they have 150,000 allocated from fund balance for set projects. In the past, sometimes the board has allocated a set amount for projects TBD, which could be, you have a wish list of 7 things that you might want to do, knowing that you can only really fund 3, but all 7 can't happen in 1 year anyway. So we pick a number, and that the H&H study could be one of those.
Yeah.
So if we have the H&H study and some other kind of engineering, like the street inventory that we had talked about, you know, so if we do get the grant for H&H, maybe we do the street inventory, but if we can't get the grant, the H&H comes to the top of the list, and so then we get a number.
The other thing that I'm thinking about is, you know, we're waiting for the estimates from Justin related to the DASNY grant and this project. Yeah. It's very hard. Contractors are having a very hard time estimating right now because the prices are all over the place. So we don't have that number yet. DASNY is a spend and reimburse grant. So we should be in the same way approaching it, right? Having it as part of the potential special projects, because we have to front the money for it.
I have the grant in here of, I think it's 200 and something thousand. I took out the cameras and stuff that we paid in this fiscal year.
Okay, so it's
And then
already
carried it
accounted
over.
for.
Mhm.
Okay,
Remind us how much the general fund balance is.
about 1.4.
I think we've done that in the past and it's worked well. Just said, okay, we're not exactly sure what we might be able to accomplish, but let's have this money on hand in case we can. And the H&H study, if we don't get that grant, we're gonna have to do it.
And it also, it's not like that is. It's just, we're just kind of moving it, right? Like, we're putting it into the budget, but it already exists in the fund balance. It's not affecting decisions about taxes. It's not,
Yeah,
it's
right.
just kind of an accounting thing that we're like slotting it into a row.
Right.
Yeah, in the past, we've always put it in the village hall repairs,
Yep.
you know, and then we had it there when we had to do the wall on Main Street, that's where we took it from.
Yeah, village facility repairs. Yeah, good. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, that is money that
You
we
need a
have.
number.
So we did 300,000 last year.
In the 300.
Yeah.
If we're at 150 now, 150, 175 would keep us, 2 years ago it was 327, last year, the current year was 300.
So you're saying that what we've already set aside
We've
plus another 150 roughly. Yeah,
Mhm.
that makes sense to me. Anybody else have a different thought?
No.
No. Any other questions?
Other expenses, we discussed additional expenses, yeah,
Would you look at?
from the executive session.
Well, Michelle answered one question that she had accounted for. She had accounted for a particular increase.
That's already built in.
Yes.
The majority of it.
Yes. I don't know, what are you planning to?
2%.
Oh, yes. The earlier part of the conversation. Trying to follow along here. We would like to, rather than a 2% across the board increase, we'd like to go to 3%. Just to get closer to inflation rate.
So, rough estimates, in the general fund, that's at 4,700. Again, we talked about C Street, talked about, liability insurance could be a potential one, that's a 15%, that's high. It has been high in the past, I'm hoping that it's leveled off a little bit, so if that 15% comes down, I think, 10 or 12%. If it comes down to 10%, that's 2,400 there.
So we're almost there.
I'd have to dig a little deeper and see if there's other minor changes. But of that 4,700, half of it, I think, is liability insurance, pension, and confidential. And if C Street really is, in any contract, whether we want them to dock or we don't, the reality is that not every single trip can be the ideal, whether it's docked or undocked.
Yeah.
So 660, if it's a third of them, a quarter, a half, that, 4 or 5 dock plus liability insurance covers this 3%.
I would add those in.
That's great.
Yeah.
At a third of docking,
I
so we,
think so.
as
I
an
mean, just
estimate, yeah.
knowing the way they're organized, like, I think they're gonna come to us and say, we need more docking. Where possible.
But still, we wouldn't be saying yes to every time.
No,
Yeah.
no.
And then one more.
So really,
So that's so that's, we have, I'm not sure how to, what Aaron has just raised, I'm not sure how to handle it in public session, a decision about a particular raise. How do we communicate that to you? It's not public. Is that a public discussion yet? Right?
For Michelle's purposes, we need a number.
Okay, so there is a stipend increase of $1,000.
so that becomes 57, 25-ish, if I go. Rough. So 1/3 of C Street is 4,600, so that much covers it. Okay, I think we could fit both of those in.
Our liability insurance should definitely be coming.
Mhm.
We've had no claims in the past year, so that should
Mhm.
have it to, yeah, no.
Yeah, Knox, like,
Yeah, seriously. Okay, and how do we handle anticipated changes to PBA contracts that aren't accounted
Michelle has
for?
built in, go ahead.
I don't think it covers.
So the PBA contract is still in negotiation. For the purposes of this budget, I did 2% increase for everybody, whether they are employee or the PBA, with the exception of stipends. You know, so there is a 2% off of last year's budgeted or actual number, or which one I use, for the built-in. So pending changes to the PBA contract, that the number that's built in, it's not like we're starting from scratch. Um, I don't know what number the PBA contract's gonna land on. If we might have a better number as we move closer in negotiations before the public hearing, and if that's the case, we can make adjustments. If not, we can go on the best guess that we have. And a budget is a science, and it's the best that we know at the time, doing our due diligence. You know, sometimes contracts and things aren't negotiated for years and you have to pay retro. So in that case, you can pick a comfortable percentage, 1%, 2, 3, 5, whatever it is, 0, and you accrue it. So it's the same thing on the budget. You know, we built in 2% for everybody else. It's there as a placeholder. We need to increase it depending on how negotiations go. I like to have the budget for the public hearing be the 99.9% finished, which is April 10th. So we have a week and a half.
Well, we have a meeting scheduled, we have a negotiation scheduled Tuesday, so we'll have a better sense on then.
Word of caution that the negotiations, we should be talking about this in terms of the budget and not in terms of contract negotiations, because we don't want to be in violation of civil service law.
Thank you, thank you.
So with that guidance in mind, we've raised the current balance tentative budget is based on 2% increases. We've just said a 3% increases. Should we also apply the 3% to the
Across the board.
across the board?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's gonna offset, right?
That'll make it,
Cause your 4,700 wouldn't. That estimate was only certain salaries,
Employees and
Employees.
non-collective bargaining.
right, okay. So probably should have 3% across the board.
Yep,
that makes
sense.
yeah.
Which will mean we're gonna have to find more revenue.
Or reduce cost.
Let's see what the number is. Well, Michelle's roughing it out right now.
Any other questions about expense items that need to be in for the budget?
No, I'm just amazed at how you took $75,000 too much. and it's just right. Like, I don't know what magic you have, but it's good.
That was Aaron's idea with the half labor.
Yeah.
That was the majority of the changes.
Yeah.
I don't have, the papers that I need to do that, but I can get a number. Okay. For that 2%
Great.
to 3%. General fund. All set for right now?
I think so.
3%. And that 3% is now hourly employees and the police, no stipends, not salaried employees.
Except for the one.
Yeah.
stipend that we-
1K, okay.
Well, your estimate for the. That you provided for if we did a 3% increase, did that factor in overtime
Yeah.
as well? Great, of course. it did.
And factored in FICA too.
That's to verify, Jim.
I answered that question about 3 hours.
We've been here a long time.
General fund, done for right now?
Yes,
Okay.
well done, well done.
Yeah.
Okay. Water and sewer. So this is the first time seeing the water and sewer budget. It is the tentative budget and it is balanced, both of them. Water and sewer are separate funds. For the majority of the conversations, they will be spoken of as one. Because most changes in water also occur in sewer. So I'm gonna run through a couple highlights that are in both water and sewer. Okay. As we talked about a couple meetings ago, water and sewer flat rates have no change. However, the water and sewer usage rates increase them each 3%. Sewer is 3% flat increase, water is 3.13%. I don't like increasing half of the cent. So I did 10 cents flat, which is 3.13, roughly 3% on each fund. On the usage, not on the flat. Revenue flat rates are based on actual accounts that are billed. Tally them up, go through them. Same thing for water and sewer. Usage is an estimate based on historic data from the year or 2 years prior. You know, water usage changes based on conditions and the heat, and it's the best that we could do is 2 years in history, and it's worked pretty well so far. Interest rates increased on both water and sewer, the same thing in the general fund, the bank account interest, fund balance, contribution. In the water fund, 30,000 for dam engineering and some hydrant replaces. That's on Matt's wish list that needs to do. And in the sewer fund, the 44,000, the sewer fund is a little tighter. So it's 44,000 for miscellaneous sewer line repairs, some engineering. Matt's big sewer plant project is to replace or repair RAS pumps. The RAS pumps are the items in the sewer plant that keep the sewer plant running, basically. Without these pumps, it can't process what it needs to process. They are original pumps to the plant.
1968.
They have been repaired and hopped along. Matt would like to try and get this replaced before they actually go. But would need some engineering, so that's what the fund balance is mostly for, is for that project. And if there's the same thing in the general fund, how we pulled out, you know, some sidewalk repairs or storm repairs, things that we know would happen, but they could be one-off with a vendor. If a sewer line breaks, we keep money in the budget for that and move that to fund balance. We go to Della, might come in and do that. So that's all on the revenue side. On the expense side, a lot of stuff from the general fund too, the auditors and liability insurance estimates increase. Chemical prices have increased, plus the usage of chemicals due to rain events. So this is a double hit. The water plant uses more chemicals, but the sewer plant still needs. And when I say chemicals, they are Department of Health approved.
Yes.
You know, all that. It's the treatment of the water and the sewer plant. Health insurance increases.
So Michelle, could you pause for a second? Given how much it's gone up in price and how much more frequently we're dealing with those heavy rains, do you feel like the revenue that we've set with usage gives us enough?
I do, for now. You know, it's all the water fund is doing pretty well right now. But the dam repairs are coming and the bond payments are coming. So when those payments come, it won't be okay. But it's okay right now for the chemicals.
Okay.
So, you know, do you wanna raise rates more because you're gonna need more money down the road, and then some of the stuff from fund balance gets paid out of operating, or do we keep it at 3%, you know, for cost of increase?
One of the things that I have requested numbers for, but not got numbers for yet, is out I think we've talked about this before, so I don't want to go into deep detail, but the pump house at the water treatment plant, have we talked about that to the group? It needs repairs and valve replacements so that it's ready to take the water from the aqueduct when we drain down the dam. So that has to be done before the dam work. I've asked for a number from Han. I don't have a sense of scope yet.
So this was not part of the original Catskill Aqueduct contract that we did?
It is an item that is unfinished from that because it got, my memory is a little vague on this now. It was either that it got cold or they needed to sort more things out before they could do the work.
But was it on the alternative so that like the pricing was built in? That's, I guess what I'm getting at. Like the total, like, 'cause when we did
That's
the
what I'm not
bid,
remembering. So that's,
'cause if it was already as an alternative in the bid, then, we'd still have to know, but we
so
would
we
have a
still would have,
number.
we have that number set as,
Well, we
if we
had it
haven't
set
spent
aside
it.
this year. So we have to carry that over, we would need to know that. I would assume, that would be from the rest of fund balance. Remembering for the Catskill Aqueduct project, it was roughly 330, I think. With all the contingencies,
right,
we were able to ban an extra 180. So we didn't have to pay for the full project out of fund balance. We used the 180 first, and then we have to allocate more fund balance.
okay, so I'll get that information from Will. I mean, they're still trying to sort out how to make the repairs, so it's gonna be a very rough, number, and it may be one that qualifies for Crest. I don't know, we'll know more.
Which is, legislature
It used to be called member items, now they're called Crest grants.
member items, essentially from the state legislature, so it'd be like a grant.
Press would be 125 or 250, right?
Yeah, their request has to be either 125 or 250. I don't know why. It's bonkers.
Go for 250.
Oh, I imagine that it will be, well, I don't know. I'm not an engineer. It's complicated.
The Garrison Landing Water District, no, is that? in here?
That's what, it's like, I'm not sure where the board has landed on continuing or when that contract ends or keeps going.
It ends, the regular contract for the day-to-day ends the March 31st. Phillipstown is lined up with, I believe the company is Semco, to go during the week on the 1st. Where they still have not found coverage is on the weekends. Matt and I met with a supervisor, I don't know, last week, 2 weeks ago. Now that everything is set up, Matt and his team feel that they have capacity to do that with just the weekends. But that's we would continue to pay that at the rate we're paying it now, right, at the overtime rate.
So it's not, would be a net zero item. I can add that in so we capture the expenses properly and the revenue properly, but it's basically gonna work out to be the same.
I'm waiting for another request in writing for IMA.
But it makes sense to put in the budget.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Estimated for, like, the end date, like, would it be the whole fiscal year, part of fiscal year?
My understanding is he's willing to do it through the fiscal year,
Oh, it's our fiscal year.
our fiscal year, yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was just through the calendar year. so-
Oh, right, because they're on calendar year. I mean, Matt did not talk about it, when, in that conversation, he did not talk about an end term. He felt that weekends were doable. Yeah,
If they're short-staffed, I wonder if that needs a little more exploration.
well, we get help from Phillipstown as well, and it's something that Matt feels he can do on the weekends.
Paying him, right?
They're paying him,
paying
yeah.
him
They're paying him.
extra
Paying him
wage,
Yeah.
All right,
so.
We're paying,
No, I
and
mean,
we're gonna invoice Phillipstown.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of the few ways that we can help them in return.
no,
for the way-
I'm happy with the arrangement. Right?
And we were very clear in conversations with Matt that, this is a window. If this is something that I was expecting to be done with it on March 31st. It was he who came forward to say, we feel like we can handle
Yeah,
it.
I don't mean to be patronizing to that department,
Yeah.
but it's, just to make sure that there's no burnout possibility.
Yes, understood.
That's what I'm,
If it had been us going to them and asking them to do it, I would have that concern, but it was Matt coming to me and saying, we're able to do, this is not so bad on the weekends, we're able to keep going.
Right.
And what I hope is that Phillipstown will, eventually Semco will be able to expand its capacity to do weekends.
okay, good.
In terms of expenses year over year, most other items have remained stable. But hauling is always a big topic. We went out to bid, that will have to go out to bid again. I assumed that we would have the same rate. And I don't remember when the contract is expired, it's 1 year. That could be a variable. But there's no way of knowing.
And the reduced, it's less, like $6,000. That's with this new company, and
So
it was a
then
lower rate,
Yeah.
but they haven't had very good liability, right?
They weren't, it's getting better, but it still has some hiccups.
Yeah, stuff sat for longer periods. Yeah. Why are, I just don't remember the terms. Was it just a 1-year contract? And has it always been a 1-year contract?
This was the first year we formally went out to RFP.
I see.
How many responses have we got?
2.
Not a lot of people doing sludge removal.
One was so far off, the number was laughable.
Oh, wow.
And then the company that we have now bid reasonably, and the company we're using did not bid on it.
The company you were using before. I see.
It doesn't sound like they have a lot of applicants.
No.
Okay. Gotta talk that through.
Yeah, but I see how much they make. I might consider a career change.
Any other overall questions, line item questions? We can go through the lines in water and sewer. I feel like doing overall things like the hit list is helpful. Water and sewer
Straightforward.
are self-sustaining funds.
The higher amount of engineer contractual for sewer, is that for the RAS pumps?
Yeah. Oh, and what about, fronting the filters until we get the ARPA money back? Do
That
we
wouldn't
have,
be in the budget, that's like a behind the scenes kind of thing.
okay,
You wouldn't see it in.
but we have to replace the filters. Yep. Right, so why is that not in the same way that the, another grant would be? That we have it in the budget and it gets zero.
Oh, yeah, it would be. I thought you were talking about cash flow, not budgeting.
I was thinking about cash flow. I think I'm not articulating it very well. Do we have enough set aside so that we can front for that project until the grant money comes back? Are we taking enough out of general fund to front that money?
Sewer fund.
Water, general fund for water,
Fund balance,
fund balance, I'm sorry.
2 separate conversations. Fund balance is used to allocate when you're actually gonna spend it. Fund balance also serves behind the scenes as a cash flow for
Okay.
fronting money and getting reimbursed, kind of like loaning money to yourself.
So that's what,
Like
that's what you were,
floating money,
that's
yeah.
what you were meaning by that, okay.
But ARPA should be in here for an equal revenue and expense. If we know exactly what year the work should be done, if it will be done in 24, 25. The contract has to be signed by December of 24. The work has to be done, I think, by December 25 or December 26.
So Will is currently working with the ARPA, the county extended the ARPA consultant, the checklist that came with the county money was pretty extensive. So Will is helping us with that, working with the O'Connor Davies consultant. What were you gonna say, Laura?
I just thought of something. This is sufficient. Unrelated, But thinking about the dam and the negotiations that we have to do to move the dam
Mhm.
forward, do we need to put more in the attorney fees? Maybe that's thinking a little too far ahead, but I mean, I think we're gonna want to be
It's not
having.
an unreasonable question.
Like.
So I did that, usually there's like 50,000 in engineering. And my understanding is a lot of the engineering has been done on that consultant. With Tectonics, that contract that we have signed, there's room for amendments and more design phase, but instead of doing 50 to engineering, I did 40 and 10 to attorney. Are you saying more than 10?
I don't know, does that sound right to you?
I mean, how long does, at $250 an hour, how long does 10,000 last?
Like 1 month sometimes.
I think it's not unreasonable, Laura. I mean, if we don't use it, we're in better shape, but if we don't have it and we're over.
And it would come from fund balance.
Yep.
Typically, in the past, the majority of dam related projects have been from the fund balance. This year,
Okay.
75% of it is from fund balance, roughly. Or 30 of the 50, so it's like, whatever.
Okay.
So we can add another 10 from fund balance, do you think? 20?
Sure, I mean, I'll be optimistic that we're gonna be like really in
15.
negotiation.
Add 15, please.
So that's a net zero change. Okay. The 3% across the board would apply to water and sewer, roughly 1,500 in each. And the same thing, the liability insurance, the sewer fund is a little tighter to find that. I can go back, and speak with Matt and see if there's any lines that we can lower a little bit to find that 1,500 on the sewer side.
But you also said he's got. Oh, that's coming out of fund balance, the pump replacement you were talking about.
The computer software, is that for offsite monitoring?
That's for FlexiBill, which is the water and sewer billing system that we use here. It's split, so like the water and sewer billing system and the financial software package, the financial software package is split 50 general fund, 25 water, 25 sewer. It's used amongst all three funds, but the general fund the most.
But there is the GIS licensing with the county, so that our GIS data goes into their servers, and we have access to the mapping capacity. Jeff and I think that we don't need more than 2 licenses. The estimate for the licenses is 500 each, so $1,000. It would be used for water, wastewater, and roadways and facilities, so you could spread it.
One license for highway and one for
One
Matt.
license for, it's Matt who's gonna be using it primarily, but with catch basins, et cetera. I mean, what I'm saying is I imagine Matt being the one using it most frequently, and then there should be
One that lives here.
one that lives here.
Okay. Okay, so 500 general fund, 250 water and sewer.
Do we use the attorney in the sewer fund?
Not
guess.
often.
Actuals, I guess we did.
We use bond counsel, which would be, in both water and sewer for the dams that we do. But in terms of using general advice from CMR, haven't really used it since Pearl Street. And I don't even remember if that was water or sewer, but we don't really use it.
Sewer.
It was sewer, right? So we could, I think bond counsel is 3,000.
What's the number we're at now?
That 2,000, so it doesn't actually save us that much. just hoping that we don't, this doesn't mean raising the rate.
What are we at right now? We're at 3% flat, $2 per 1,000 gallons. We're at 220 for water.
If for water, 3% is 10 cents. In sewer, 5% would be 10 cents. So if you wanna do 10 cents on each to match the cents rise instead of the percentage rise, going from 3% to 5% in sewer is an extra, 2,100. So that would be the answer, an easy
Yeah,
answer.
yeah. I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah,
We're cleaning the water that's being given to you, and we're cleaning the water that we take from you before it goes in the Hudson.
I mean, I think if you look at it and you find a way to not raise it, that's preferred. Like for me,
Yeah.
I think that's preferred.
Sure.
always.
But if like, when you look at it and you talk with Matt, like these are as low as it, feel comfortable, then, yeah, then I guess we use your suggestion.
More likely than not, I think raising the rates in the sewer fund, if this was water fund, I would be more confident in finding somewhere else. The sewer fund is pretty strict with a lot of the projects already sitting in fund balance. And the sewer plant, the costs keep rising faster than the water fund.
Yeah, so then we need to meet the price
The electric,
with the cost.
And it's not gonna get better with storms. And the load that the plant's taking from storms.
the chemicals was never high on the sewer side, it was just seasonal disinfection. And now has to be more because of all the rain events, which also happen during seasonal disinfection.
Or at least the biggest ones have been. Okay,
If the board wants to vote on raising these rates. I mean, we would need a resolution to adjust the master fee schedule.
which we couldn't do tonight anyway. Well, it sounded like Michelle, that's the direction we need to go.
I had a hard time balancing sewer before.
So are folks comfortable with moving to a resolution on 10 cents
Yes.
per 1,000 gallon? Yes?
Which is sewer or so you look for water.
What Michelle has laid out for water, that also is, so that also needs to be a resolution because it's changing on the fee schedule. So are folks, how do people feel about what Michelle has proposed for the water increase? 10 cents per 1,000 gallons.
10 cents on both.
And thoughts? You're fine with it?
Yeah.
Somebody say
For-
yes or no.
Yes,
Okay.
for a future discussion with the public, consider, yeah, for.
Well, we
fee
have to
schedule.
have we have to have the resolution to do that.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. I think, Michelle, have we done what we needed to do with
General
you?
Fund, water fund, sewer funds, we talked about fingers. Does anybody else have anything else that water, sewer, general, that we could think of that we might have missed? Okay.
Need to get you those numbers from someone. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
So,
Okay, we have a few items of business.
How quick? It's-
Very quickly. Most of them are recurring things. So, Hudson River, the sloop Clearwater has been bringing kids a variety of programs for an overnight trip up the Hudson, and they camp at Dockside. Parks has given their consent, and asked the Clearwater to provide, sorry, I lost it right in the middle there. Has asked the Clearwater to provide porta potties down there. But it's been a great event every year, no problems. It is, because we have the permitting authority at Dockside currently, we need to approve the request. Any discussion?
With the question here, it's unclear with the black and white copy. For alcoholic beverages
Says
permit,
no.
there's the no is indicated, it's not
Yes.
crossed out.
No.
Okay. That's what I thought, I
You're
was
right, with the
wondering.
black and white, it is not.
Confusing.
Amplified
Because
music.
it's fine until they got to amplified music and then.
So this is August 2nd and August 16th. We have checked with the Film Society because these are Friday nights. And they're cleaned up and out before it's time to set up for movies. That works well for them too. Any other concerns? I would make a motion then to approve the dates requested by the Hudson River Sloop Clearwater for camping at Dockside. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
I want to take the Clearwater Cold Spring and camp. That sounds awesome.
pretty great. Okay, the next is also a recurring, it's an annual event. The Nelsonville Fish and Fur Club hosts Kids Fishing Day. They have requested to use the reservoir. Matt has consented. They have asked to stock the stream with trout. Matt says delightful. The benefit to us is that the Fish and Fur Club volunteer with Matt and go in the week before and clean debris, growth around the coffer dam there, so that it's easier for the kids to walk around, and Matt gets a clearer spot around the dam. So he's cool with that too. So we're asking everybody good with May 5th, if Matt is good with May 5th. Are we good with them going in to clean up and to stock? And then the last is, they requested 20 permits for their members donated. How much are the fishing permits? Usually $5, right?
5 for village residents, 10 for Phillipstown residents.
Anyway, fishing permits?
Yeah.
And it's free for people over 60, so.
These guys do this, it's not just guys, it's these people, these men, women, children who help us at the dam every year with clearing.
Yeah,
I'm
it's great.
perfectly comfortable donating permits to them.
But and others with permits can fish at,
If you're a Nelsonville, if you're a Cold Spring or Phillipstown resident, yeah,
but can then fish at our,
yeah.
Trout stocked.
and they're stocking the trout.
Yep.
So I think that also for that reason, they're investing in ours,
Okay.
so we can give them.
So I make a motion to approve the use of the Cold Spring Reservoir on May 5th by the Nelsonville Fish and Fur Club, preceded by debris cleanup and stocking with trout, and a donation of 20 permits as a thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's done. The next is the annual request from the Cold Spring Film Society to use Mayor's Park through the season. It's the same contract that we've used year on year. Any discussion?
We have them continue.
Should I take a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the request for
Authorize the mayor.
to authorize the mayor to sign the contract with the Cold Spring Film Society.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Okay. Jeff, can you talk us through firewall licensing?
Well, it's what keeps the invaders out of our.
I know what a firewall is, but this is an annual, so 3-year.
The 3-year, we have the option here to lock in the price. For signing a 3-year agreement. We could do it annually.
Is it paid annually or for 3 years?
We pay now for 3
Pay
years.
the total,
Yeah.
but it's 1,500, less than 1,500.
Yeah. It locks us in, or it locks the rate in, so.
Is any budget worries because this is higher than expected?
No. In the past, we've done a 3-year.
Right?
Okay, would you like to make a motion?
Like to make a motion to approve the quote for a 3-year renewal of firewall licensing.
All in favor?
Aye.
You all got hard copies of the results of the audit, which we reviewed last week in our session with a representative of the auditor. It's also available on the village website. Would someone like to make a motion accepting the results? But they were, by the way, entirely laudatory of Michelle and her efforts, as
We
you
have
know.
to read the resolution.
Correct.
Oh.
The resolution.
Yep.
Out of it.
Go for it, go crazy.
I'll make a motion to accept resolution number 8, 2024, accepting results of the fiscal year 2022-2023 audit. Following resolution was offered by myself for adoption and seconded by
Me.
Tweeps. To wit, whereas the village has engaged EFPR Group LLP certified public accounts to conduct an independent audit of the village's accounting practices, policies, and estimates. And whereas EFPR Group presented its findings for the fiscal year ending May 31st, 2023, to the Village Board of Trustees on March 6th, 2024, whereas EFPR Group found that the village's accounting practices and policies were appropriate, comply with generally accepted accounting principles and policies, and were consistently applied. Whereas EFPR Group found that there were no significant changes made to the process or assumptions used to develop accounting estimates, and that financial statement disclosures were neutral, consistent, and clear. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that the village board accepts the findings of EFPR Group for the fiscal year ending May 31st, 2023 on roll call vote.
Mayor Foley,
Aye.
Mayor Foley,
Aye.
trustee Bozey,
Aye.
trustee Freimeyer,
Aye.
trustee Starbuck,
Aye.
trustee Wood.
Aye.
Officially adopted on this date by a vote of 5-0.
And the minutes from 2:14, everybody can vote that speaks.
I make a motion to approve, minutes for 2/14/24.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And one abstention.
Right, I'll take the batch of bills. I make a motion to approve that the bills batch number 7291 for the amount of 55,753.08.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have ended the continued budget discussion. So with that, we'll make a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Night, good night. Oh my God, you must be dead. What time did you get in the car?